I was brewing coffee when my phone vibrated. It was a video message from Mrs. Thompson, our former neighbor. I hadn't heard from her in ages, and just seeing her name on my screen brought back a flood of memories I thought I'd long forgotten. The message was brief, no greeting, no context, just a single line. "I'm so sorry about your parents. I can't believe what I saw today." My stomach nodded as I tapped on the video. It was a church, a familiar one, St. Albans, the same place they used to take me for Christmas Eve services when I was a kid. The camera slowly zoomed in on two figures standing at the podium, my parents. My mother was dressed in black lace and pearls, dabbing at fake tears, while my father stood stiff and solemn, reading from a paper with shaking hands. Behind them was a casket, and next to it, a large, framed photograph of me, surrounded by flowers. I froze. "No," I whispered. My father's voice echoed through the phone. She was always a troubled girl, but we loved her. We did everything we could. My vision blurred as I realized he was reading a eulogy, my obituary. Though she left this world far too young, we pray her soul finally finds peace. I wasn't dead. I was standing in my apartment, alive, breathing, shaking. This couldn't be real. I scrubbed the timeline back, playing it again and again. Their faces didn't change. Their voices didn't shake with grief. They were calm, controlled, almost performed. I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, my hands trembling uncontrollably. "What the hell is going on?" I whispered aloud. "Why are they doing this?" I hadn't spoken to them in years, not since they cut me off, disowned me like I was a stain on their reputation. But to hold a funeral, to declare me dead. The more I watched, the colder it got. My mother mentioned how tragic my accident was. There was no accident. My father talked about my final years spent in isolation. I was working, living, surviving. They knew that. They had to. So why were they doing this? I sat down slowly, the phone still playing. The video ended with the camera panning to distant relatives, family, friends, even my childhood piano teacher, all there, all dressed in black, all believing that I was gone, dead. And no one had even tried to reach me. I played the video again, just to be sure I wasn't imagining it. But the truth was clear. They didn't just erase me, they buried me alive. And in that moment, one thing became crystal clear. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when I believed family meant protection, loyalty. That illusion shattered 3 years ago, the day I was thrown out of my own life like trash swept under a rug. The truth was, it wasn't me who stole the money. It was Elena, my younger sister, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. She embezzled nearly $80,000 from our family's business account. She was reckless, addicted to a lifestyle she couldn't afford. When the numbers didn't add up and the books caught fire, our parents needed a scapegoat, and I was convenient. I still remember the exact words my mother hissed at me in the kitchen. "Better one ruined daughter than two." My father didn't even look at me when he said, "You humiliated us. You're no longer our daughter." The next morning, I was gone. No money, no explanation to anyone, just silence. I tried calling, texting, sending letters, but nothing. My number was blocked. When I reached out to close family friends, they suddenly stopped responding, one by one. Doors that had always been open slammed shut. I became a ghost, not just to them, but to the entire world that had once known me. Eventually, I did what broken people do. I left. I moved abroad, took a job in a cafe, changed my number, learned to live quietly. I didn't post online. I barely spoke my name. But even then, deep down, I held on to hope that someday, anyone would call, ask if I was okay. It had all been a huge blunder. That day never arrived. Instead, something far worse happened. Last year, I attempted to renew my old email account, but it just wouldn't work. When I reached out to customer support, they informed me that the account had been deactivated because someone had reported me as deceased. My name was officially, digitally, and completely marked as dead in their system. They hadn't just cut me off, they had erased me entirely. I couldn't catch a wink of sleep that night. The video kept replaying in my mind, their voices, their insincere sorrow, my face next to a casket I had never seen. It was my own funeral, happening without me. Something just didn't add up. So, I started investigating. First, I called my Aunt Rachel, my mother's elder sister. We hadn't talked in years, but she used to sneak me candy during family reunions. She picked up on the second ring. "Hello, Aunt Rachel." "It's me, it's Maya." Silence, then a click. She hung up. I called again, blocked. Next, I tried my cousins. One sent me a thumbs-up emoji and never replied. Another asked, "Is this some kind of sick joke?" No one believed I was me, except for one person, my youngest cousin, Sam. He always looked up to me when we were kids. He texted back, hesitant. "Maya, are you really alive?" "Yes, I need to know the truth." "What did they tell everyone?" The typing bubble blinked for a long time. Then, "They said you died in a car crash overseas 3 years ago." My stomach dropped. They had a whole story concocted, saying it happened while I was traveling and that it was too late to bring me home. Cremation, closed casket, the works. I nearly dropped my phone. There had never been a car crash. I'd never even owned a car while abroad. Something in me snapped. I pulled out every document I had, passport stamps, rental records, immigration papers. I had never been in an accident. I had never gone missing. So, I checked the Public Records Office online, and there it was. Maya Dekwa. Date of death July 16th. Cause of death, road accident. Status, deceased, certificate ID, ARF 91327. They had forged it. They made me legally dead. I stared at the screen, frozen. This wasn't grief. This wasn't denial. This was a cover-up. But what were they hiding that was worth burying me alive? I should have stopped digging, but once you realize your own family has buried you alive, you have to know why. I found my answer in a place I hadn't looked in years, Elena's Instagram. She had gone public again, and there it was, a glittering carousel of images. White roses, champagne fountains, a diamond the size of a small planet. Elena's wedding. Everyone was there. Aunt Rachel smiling like she didn't hang up on me, my cousins clinking glasses, even great Uncle Theo who lived in another country and never showed up for anything. But not me. Not one mention, not one photo, not even a "wish Maya could have been here" caption. I was gone, erased like I never existed. Until I looked closer. In one of the photos taken at the reception, there was a speech in progress, a toast. Her husband stood smiling, and next to him was my father, holding a wine glass, speaking into a microphone, grinning. Under the caption, it read, "To the one daughter who always made us proud." And there it was, the switch. Not just forgotten, but replaced. Curious, I searched the family business registry. A few clicks and my blood went cold. The trust fund my grandparents had left for me, college money, startup money, everything, had been transferred to Elena 6 months after my death, legally and quietly. She didn't mourn me, she profited off me. I stared at her smiling face, white dress sparkling in the sun, and it hit me. My sister didn't just replace me, she erased me. Enough was enough. If they wanted me dead, they were about to see just how alive I really was. The next morning, I walked into a law office with a stack of documents and a fire in my chest, passport stamps, employment contracts, tax filings, lease agreements, flight records, proof. I was standing by the window of my flat that evening, the urban glow beneath me like embers ready to ignite. They had cloaked me in deceit, entombed me in quietude, acted as if I had never been born. But now, the tables were about to turn. Let them mourn, let them weep, let them put on a show. Because when the veil lifts, they're in for a funeral they'll never forget. The Church of St. Albans was packed to the brim. Vehicles stretched down the road like a procession of sorrow. The grand entrance of the chapel was propped open just wide enough to admit mourners clad in black, tears streaming, murmuring, embracing one another as if misfortune had personally touched them. I observed from the opposite side of the street, concealed in a dark jacket and shades. It felt unreal, like witnessing a drama about someone who resembled me, echoed my voice, but wasn't truly me. Within the sanctuary, the spectacle had commenced. The organ resonated with a melancholic melody, candlelight flickered under my portrait, the very same image they had used for the sham eulogy. I recalled the moment it was captured. My smile had been genuine then. My dad took his place at the lectern, his expression grave, his voice barely audible yet carrying through the room. She was a challenging individual, but we cared for her deeply. She wandered off the path, and though we couldn't guide her back, our prayers for her return never ceased. My mom was seated front and center, elegantly patting away tears with a handkerchief adorned with lace, as if she had rehearsed this moment for weeks. Her crying was refined, flawless. And there was Elena, standing beside her, clutching her pearls as if they were the only thing keeping her composed. My sister Maya was complex, but she was mine. I wish I could have bid her farewell. A deception cloaked in sorrow, adorned with a flourish. I inched closer to the entrance, just near enough to hear. The clergyman lifted his hand in a solemn gesture. May her soul find peace. I breathed out slowly. Not just yet. The act was still unfolding, but the star performer had yet to make her entrance. Please rise for a moment of silence. The priest's voice resounded through the chapel like the final note of a symphony. The congregation stood, heads lowered, eyes shut, hands respectfully folded. And in that hushed interlude, I thrust the doors wide open. The noise was abrupt, intentional, two massive wooden doors creaking apart like a crypt bursting open. The chilly daylight from outside flooded the church, cascading down the aisle like a beam of light. And I strode into it, measured and intentional. Each footfall on the stone floor reverberated like a thunderclap. Step, step, step. The hush shattered. Sharp intakes of breath. Heads turned, one by one. Murmurs spread like a brush fire. Is that really? It can't be. A young voice cut through the tension. Mom, isn't that her? I removed my sunglasses, revealing my eyes to their stunned gazes, wide with shock, incredulity, and fear. My mom's complexion turned ashen, her lips quivered, and then she collapsed in a dramatic swoon, her body falling as if choreographed. My dad's jaw dropped, his glass of wine slipping from his grasp and shattering on the floor. Elena's eyes locked onto mine, her face frozen, jaw clenched, fingers gripping her pearl necklace tightly. A glass of champagne slipped from her hand, splashing onto her immaculate white shoes. The priest, taken aback, retreated a step. I continued my march forward, every pair of eyes in the room tracking my movements as if witnessing an apparition. They couldn't tell if they were witnessing a ghost or a reckoning, and maybe I was both. I didn't utter a single word. I didn't need to. My mere presence was the thunderclap after the lie. The consequence they had prayed would never arrive. By the time I reached the front of the aisle, the room was breathless, hanging on every move I made. I turned to face them all and smiled. Let the truth begin. I stood there, beneath my own portrait, the same photo they had used to eulogize me, to mourn me, to bury me. Dozens of eyes were fixed on me as if I had risen from the grave. Good, let them look. I cleared my throat and spoke into the silence. I heard I died, but I'm here to set the record straight. A ripple of shock went through the room. No one moved. Some had phones in their hands, but forgot to blink, let alone hit record. There was no accident, I declared. No tragic car crash overseas, no closed casket because the body was unrecognizable. I pulled a thick folder from my coat, stamped and sealed with government marks and international dates. These are my passport stamps, my employment records, tax filings, apartment leases. I've been alive. I've been working. I've been surviving. The only thing I lost was them. I turned to my parents. They told the world I died, faked the documents, filed a certificate, and when I was legally gone, I shifted my gaze to Elena, who stood frozen, fingers clenched around her pearls. They transferred everything to her. My trust fund, my inheritance, my life. Elena opened her mouth to speak, but I didn't let her. Enjoy the house you bought with my money. A murmur rose like thunder behind me. Someone whispered, she's got proof. Another gasped, and then a phone lifted, a red, blinking. Someone was filming. Good. Let the world see this funeral for what it really was. Not a farewell, but a cover-up. You didn't lose a daughter, I said, staring my father down. You threw her away. And now you get to watch her walk back in. The lies were ashes, and I had just lit the match. I turned back one last time. My father's face was pale, my mother still trembling in her seat. Elena hollow and defeated, no pearls to clutch now. You buried me to protect yourselves, I said calmly. But I came back to haunt you with the truth. No more shouting, no more lies, just silence, heavy and final, as I walked out. The church bells began to ring, how fitting, a funeral bell, but this time, not for me. In a montage, I handed the documents to my lawyer, signed the final page, and watched as the death certificate was torn in half. My legal resurrection was official. An investigation opened into fraud, false reporting, and embezzlement. Let them try to lie now. Sometimes, you have to die in their world to be reborn in your own. And this time, I wasn't coming back for forgiveness. I was coming back for freedom.